So if we talk about intelligent vision with deep learning, then if we consider object recognition is one of the most interesting problem of the computer vision, and this problem has become more really relevant, right? More interesting because of this driverless cars. So we all looking forward, and so if you consider these cars, then these cars are having multiple systems, including the vision-based systems, lidar, and other complex system together in one go, and so that they can give you a glimpse of the entire, they can create the entire environment over there, a 3D view of the road, then sign, then people, like everything. That is what. So when we start with object recognition, before that, the let us begin with the first problem, that is the problem of classification. So if you look at this picture, what we want to know, that we want to get the answer of the question, what is it? So basically, if you see the picture, we are moving towards the more complicated task. So in the beginning, we want to know what is it. So that is your classification problem, and we say that, okay, yes, this is a cat. Now we are moving one step forward. So after knowing what is it, we want to know where is it, right? So in the next problem, along with classification, we are having localization also. So you want to know not only what is there, but where it is. And you can see with this bounding box, you are going to be displayed where this cat is present in the picture. Now, so far so good, but in the real life, what happens? We are not happy with just finding out a single object, because if you take example of even a driverless car on the road, there are several things, right? People are walking, then traffic signs are there, then multiple vehicles are there, and even on the road there are certain objects, because if you will see on the road a child is there, or on the road a paper bag is there, the reaction will be different. So we want to identify more and more objects there. So that is how we come from, after localization, we come to object detection. And here you can see that not only multiple objects are finding out, so they are being shown with this help of these bounding boxes. So that is the way. Now, sometime what is happening, we are interested in knowing the boundaries of the objects, right? So that is called segmentation. For example, if you take medical, this we want to find out the presence of the lesion. So we want to identify, yeah, this is the portion where lesion is there. Okay, so we are interested in the instance segmentation, and so these problems are there. And then let us look over this ImageNet. And as we are mentioned it a couple of times, so let us see what is it. So this is ImageNet is an visual data set which is containing more than 15 million of labeled high resolution images covering almost 22,000 categories. Now, if we talk about object classification, so classification problem is now within our hand, right? So, I mean, if most of the applications, the classification error rates are even less than 1%. But so, of course, the credit goes to the researchers, right, who are working over different architecture to give you the solution of the problem. But at this point of time, we must give it a pause and must thank, I mean, this whole progress is actually possible after this data set came, this visual data set ImageNet, which was the idea conceived by Professor Fefeli, as I told you in one of my lecture, that in 2006, when she was working on the medical images, she found that, like, the absence of good images, the learning algorithm, right, she was finding problem. So at that time, it was, I mean, her group has decided that we'll go with the having a good data set. So at that time, when other researchers were focusing on the improving the machine learning algorithm, she focused on the data, like good data to for the machine learning algorithm. So this data set was launched in 2009, and this data set has helped a lot. So this has actually paved a path for researchers to come up with new architectures without worrying about the data, because this is a very high quality data set, and this is very much popular among the researchers, so that they are testing their performance of their model for classification, object detection, localization, no matter what. So, and after that, once this data set came into the public, then in 2010, actually, this annual image classification competition is started. And in this competition, every year the level of the competition goes on increasing. And the good part was that they give you the training images, validation set, testing images, and then you need to test your model. So they are giving you the data and you just give them a good model for object detection, segmentation, and so on. This goes on. And how they get the performance, how the winners are being decided based on the minimal top 1 and top 5 error rate. So top 5 error rate, what does it mean? Let us say some image, like first 5 labels which are being produced by this image, how many of those 5 labels are wrong? That is what is being the error rate, right? So, so the performance is tested on these error rates, and so this competition, it is known as ImageNet Large Scale Visual Recognition Challenge. And now, what happened when this competition started? So, in 2012, you can see here, the first CNN-based winner came out, that is AlexNet. So, you can see that if you consider the before that, we were having machine learning based model, bag of words, and all those algorithms were there. And the beauty is this, that if you notice that not only it won, but you can see how much difference in the performance is there at that point of time. So in a one go, this much difference is there. So you can say that actually this AlexNet was, and this has actually given the incarnation to the CNN basically. And after this, and then you can see that right from the 8 layers to 19 layers to 22, and when we talk about ResNet, it is 152 layer architecture is possible. So now, so what is convolutional neural network? It is basically a class of deep neural network which is most commonly applied to analyze visual imagery, but now this is being used for other, in the beginning, right, it was used for the visual data, but now it is being used for other applications also, including uh, uh, natural language processing, or you can say the speech recognition, like that. So now this whole thing basically, it is not like something came in 2012 all of a sudden. In 1989, basically Linet and his group, they have given the Linet this architecture for classifying the US postal codes. And then their research goes on, and then because they were using back propagation and gave this solution, and the research goes on, and after 8 years in 1998, they gave this to identify the letters, right? So but at that point of time, this problem, because we know that postal digits, the problem is relatively simple, right? We do not have much variation, and less number of symbols were there. So so after that, again the research, not much was observed, and it came in 2012, this AlexNet. And so in the from the Canada, Alex Krasowski, so their group, he has given this model, and here you can see that now with the deep neural network, you can see here something different. You are finding it out. You can see this convolution, right? Convolution layer, pooling layer, and here only you can see this fully connected layers, right? And so we have to learn this convolutional neural network, which is I mean gave you a different show. Actually, it has opened up a gate to for much more research in this direction. So now let us see. So we already know that what we are doing with the deep learning, that is, we are actually learning the hierarchical representation automatically by extracting the features at different levels. So in place of the handcrafted features, now our model, deep learning model, they are extracting features, and here you can see that right from the pixels to the higher level objects, they are going to recognize. So now let us, if we talk about the neural network from image point of view, image data point of view. What is the input to your neural network, right? So this is the network you are already familiar with. Now what will be the input here? Input will be the pixel value. So let us say here this picture, let us say if this picture is 256 cross 256, so those many pixels will be the input to this deep neural network, right? And so and then based on this trained network, the network is supposed to classify whether this picture contains bird or not. So if let us say several such images are being passed to your network, and let us say if your picture is of size 256 cross 256, what will be the size of the, if you just consider the simple network, so what will be the size of the input layer? Just imagine what happens when you are dealing with these things with the image data, right? So obviously, as I told you, all these, so in the image, what is there? In the image, pixels are there. We all know that in the image scan lines are there and columns are there. So what is the meaning of this 256 cross 256? That 256 scan lines are there, and in each scan line there is how many pixels? There are 256 pixels. So total how many pixels are there? 256 cross 256, right? And that is the size of the input. Right? Now, let us say if I'm saying in this hidden layer, there are 10, here you can see 4 units. Let us say I'm saying that this hidden layer is having 1024 units. Then how many weight parameters will be there? I mean, just think over it and see whether you are able to find it out. So because you can see every input is connected with every hidden layer, is hidden this unit. So you can see one input unit is connected with 1024 units here, right? And how many units we have? These many units. So these many multiplied by 1024. So you can see that these many weight parameters, right? So not too much, right? Must be see. So now let us, before we begin, because we need to ultimately look over our data, because it is the inherent characteristic of data which my model is learning. So we must know what is there in the images. So if you look at the image, this is just pixel values of a block of an image. So basically every pixel is having an intensity value, and that intensity values are being shown here. So if you look at this data, then first conclusion is what? That this is very high dimensional data. Right, you just saw there 256 cross 256, and this is a small image, right? So 1024 cross 1024, imagine. So the image data is very high dimensional data, but at the same time this data is having certain redundancies, right? And also very good point to observe is that here there are certain patterns in the data, right? And remember, we are looking for what? We are looking for patterns, right? So these patterns are there which we have to target. Now with this, let us say this is your deep neural network. And so what question comes, that this is your fully connected, right? You can see every node is connected with every other node, right, on in the next layer. Now the question comes that, do you need all the edges in this fully connected model? Because as you are having this more number of edges means more number of weights, I mean much time in training, right? Much difficult to handle. So the question comes, do we really need all these connections? If we need it, then we need to keep it. If not, then why to keep it, right? And also another question was there, that when we are learning these weights, so let us say this unit is connected with 1024. So correspond to 4 units here. So corresponding to this unit, you need to learn 1024 weights. So do I need to learn all these weights separately, or is it possible to share some of the weights, right? Can we share the weights across the nodes? So here comes the answer, and CNN gave you this answer, that CNN are multi-layered neural networks with giving you solution for. This says that they are looking for local connectivity, means that every node is not connected with every other node in the next layer, right? So they are looking in the local proximity. And so first thing is local connectivity, another thing is weight sharing, right? So I will show you how the weights are being shared, and because of this, this shift invariant learning is possible. So now come to the, if we talk about image understanding, we said that we want to learn the patterns, right? So, and these patterns which you want to learn, they are very small as compared to your image size. So you just consider this is your image now, and this is your, let us say this is one of the filter, right? This filter is detecting eyes on the picture. So this filter is a small filter, and we say eye detector, right? Now, once you have any such filter in your hand, right, then you can use this filter to know wherever eyes are present in the picture, you can get to know, because now you have that detector over there. So you are putting that detector and you are detecting, yes, it is there or not. Okay. So just see here, this small pattern detector can be used in place of entire weight matrix, right? There is no need to use, if you want to if you're looking for eyes, then no need to use the entire weight matrix, just a this eye detector, right? Small pattern which is corresponding to this eye detector, that is sufficient. Okay. And the beauty is this, that the same pattern can be used at different position in the image, and wherever. So you can see that now wherever in the image eyes are there, your filter can, or your pattern can be identified. So your pattern detector is moving around the entire picture and detecting eye at different positions. Similarly, you can have different filters, right? Now you can understand what, okay. So what is convolutional neural network? These are the networks, as I told you, because they are giving you solution of those two questions. So you can say that they are having 3D activations and they are using parameter sharing, right? So these are the important point. And so here what we do is that we have small pattern detectors, right? So a small pattern detector, which we call as filters here, right? And these filters are used to convolve over the entire image. Now, when these filter convolve over the entire image, whatever pattern is there in whatever pattern that filter is going to meant for, that pattern is present anywhere in the picture, you are able to capture it, right? So that is what. So, and how these filters, because see, we don't know what is eye filter, what should be in the eye filter. Do we know? We don't know, right? So how do we learn this? So what we are doing here in this convolutional neural network, we are learning the filters, right? Till now you are learning the weights. Now we are learning the filters. So what happens? These filters are actually learned through this neural network training in the same way you learn weights in the fully connected networks. And just like hidden layers were there in your deep neural network, here we are having convolution layers, right? So we are going to make use of convolution layers. And now how we are going to handle this, because image data, large size, you just observe. So how we are going to handle this? For handling this, pooling layers will be introduced. So if you remember the AlexNet which I showed you, it was having convolutional layers, it was having pooling layers, and at the end it was having this fully connected layer. So now all these things we have to learn. So now before we move forward, the first thing comes convolution operation. What is convolution? When we say convolution neural network, what is convolution? So convolution with an image. So this is your filter. This is your filter, very small pattern, 3 cross 3. This is your picture, right? Now, what are we doing that? We are convolving this picture, this filter. So first of all, let us say you have placed this filter at this location. Unfortunately, I will touch and it will go like I'm not able to use the pen. So, but try to understand, this filter is simply placed here, right? So with this color. Now what will happen? Very simple mathematics, just sum of product. Sum of product means what? See, if you are going to place this filter over here, this -1 will come at the place of 3, right? This 0 will come at the place of 0. This 1 will come at the place of 1, right? -2 will come at the place of 2. 0 will come at the place of 6, like that. So just do all these 9 multiplications, right? And add these responses. So it will generate a number. You can see here, when you did all these 9 multiplication and just perform the addition, it is giving you a number -3. What is this -3? -3 is the response of this filter corresponding to this position, right? And what we say that, where are we going to write -3? So this is your input, this is your output, let us say, right? So in place of 6, right, whatever is the location of 6, at that location we are going to write -3. So what happens? We usually take these odd size filters so that we know that where is the center of the filter. Now you are placing filter in the picture. Now whichever pixel is coming under the center of the filter, you are calculating response for that. You think? You understand now? See, center of the pixel, center of the filter, right? Center of the filter you are placing somewhere. Okay. So it is going to occupy those 9 pixels, and you are going to calculate the sum of product. It is going to give you response corresponding to the pixel which is under the center pixel of this filter. So here you can see that this, if you are going to place this filter over here, center of this filter is going to come on 6, right? So whatever response is being generated, that response is for this pixel, right? So here you can see that -3 is being kept. Okay. And you know, that is what you have to learn, right? That is what, because we don't know, as I'm saying that, what is eye filter, what is ear filter, that we don't know. So like in the neural network, we just saw that we were learning the weights, right? As you're moving forward, we are reducing the loss, right? Minimizing the loss, doing back propagation, and we are learning the weights, right? Here we are going to learn the filter coefficients, right? So we are in the beginning, like there we were randomly initializing our weights. Here we will take some coefficient, right? Some randomly we will initialize our filters. Okay. So you got this idea. Now you know that. Now you say, why this filter is giving response? Just understand this as a common sense thing, that when, let us say, when two like-minded people come together, there is a spike, right? That is thing. So here you can see that, let us say this is my eye filter and this is my whole picture, and in this picture at this position there is an eye. So here in this picture on this location there is an eye, my filter is an eye, I am putting this at here, so there will be more response. Now when I am putting this filter somewhere here where there is no eye pattern present, so let us say some ear pattern, nose pattern, you will get some response, but that will not be that high, right? So when you are placing it where the actual eye is there, eye filter, the response is more. So that is the concept of the, this is called, also called template matching when we go for computer vision. So you got this number. Now what we'll do, we are going to slide this filter on the entire image. Remember when we talk about image, it is always left to right, top to bottom. Always remember the way to scan the picture, top to bottom, left to right, right? So what will happen, now you are going to move this filter one position right. Now remember here, before you move, how I have placed this filter here, so that the entire filter is inside picture. So the first response, remember, the first response I am getting for this pixel, that is where 6 is written. Now I will slide it one position right. Now when I will slide it one position right, now my 3 cross 3 coefficient will come across this position, right? So understand that these 3 pixels will not participate now, and these 3 new pixels will start participating. Again, when you are going to place this time, 0 will come, -1 will go at the place of 0. Again, at the place of 5, 1 will go. Again, we will do the same 3 cross 3 multiplication addition, and this will give me a number for this pixel, right? Because now my center of the filter will be where? My center of the filter will be here. So when my center of the filter will be here, I'm going to get response here. बताएंगे अभी, just move it. I will tell you, don't worry. So many things will learn. So here you can see that. So what is a convolutional layer in this? Convolution layer is a number of filters that actually perform the convolution operation. So in one layer, there might be many filters, right? 30, 60, 64, 128, like that. So here you can imagine it like that. Your one detector was your eye detector. Another detector is your ear detector. Another detector is your nose detector, like corresponding to every detector, corresponding to every filter, you are producing a response. Right? Up to this point? Now just say this example and this convolution process will be clear to you. Now you can see this is your picture, let us say small 6 cross 6 picture, and this is my 3 cross 3 filter. Now I am placing my filter, right? So that it is completely inside the picture. Now what happens? I need to do the multiplication and addition. What will happen? How I am going to do the multiplication? See, this 5 will be multiplied by 1, because just imagine this blue thing is pasted here, right? So 5, this 1 will come over 5, 0 will come over 1, -1 will come over 7, 2 will come over 7 here, 0 will come over 2, like that. So just see this multiplication. Just have a look, right? Multiply, simple multiply. Dot product, not matrix, right? So here the corresponding terms are being multiplied, right? So 5 is multiplied with 1, you can see 1 is multiplied with 0, 7 is multiplied with -1, then this next 7. What will come on this next 7? This 2 will come on this next 7, right? So 7 into 2, then 2 into 0, 5 into -2, see there, 5 into 1, 3 into 0, and 5 into -1. Just add it all, you get 2, right? Now what will happen? So how this is being done, remember? So you need to convert image block and filter into single column vectors and just calculate the dot product, right? So if you just imagine here, this is your X, right? 517, 5177, right? Now this is your way. Now take the dot product of W transpose X. So you will take the dot product, you will get the same thing. So this is how it is implemented. Okay, clear? Now what will happen? I'm going to move this filter one position forward. See, earlier it was here, now it is here. So one position forward. Now when I move one position forward, again it is going to give me, again I'm going to repeat this process, multiplication and addition. So you can see here, 1 will be multiplied with 1, 7 will be multiplied with 0, 7 will be multiplied with -1, then this 2 multiplied with 2, 5 multiplied by 0, like that. And again you will get a response, right? Now earlier this response will be corresponding to what? Just similar corresponding to this 5, corresponding to this position generated this response -17. So when you will form your output layer, where -17 you are going to write at this corresponding to this position. right? Previously, the response you have generated, that was corresponding to this position, right? Now just keep on moving it and calculate the response, right? Keep on and just continue this. Now, once this process will be, once this entire row will be over, right? Because once now you will move it one, it will cover here, and then if you will move forward, it will go outside, right? So you have to stop. Only one position forward you can move, right? And then you have to stop. Okay. Now what will happen? As I told you, left to right, top to bottom. Now you just move one column, one row, bottom, right? So what will happen? Now your filter will be placed like this. Okay. Again, you are going to get a response corresponding to this position. Again, you move it and start generating responses. Once this is covered in width, just go down by one. After that, once you go here, now the next will be this. Okay, like that. So this process will continue, and this filter has to be moved across the entire image, right? And when this filter is going to be moved across the entire image, you are going to generate the responses, right? That is the output. So now here I just gave you one example. Okay, this image. So if, but what if I'm having color image, because we are dealing with the color images. So in the color images there are RGB. So in the color image there are three channels, right? R channel, red channel, green channel, and blue channel. So when you say that 24 bits, so let us say 8 bits are for red, 8 bits are for green, 8 bits are for blue. So what is happening? Let us say a picture is given to you where every pixel is 24 bit. Just separate out all red bit. That will give you red pin, where corresponding to every pixel, you will be having red component value. Separate out green values in another plane. That will give you a green plane. Take out all blue component of the pixel values, right, from RGB, and just write that. That will be your blue component, right? So you are going to have, if we are talking about the images, we are having, you can understand that three planes are there: red plane, green plane, and blue plane. I hope this is clear. Okay. Now, so you can see that how this picture, we were just having this one image. Now you can see the three channels are there, right? Red channel, blue channel, and green channel. Now the question comes, how do you generate the response? Now earlier there was just one picture. Now we are having three picture, you can understand, right? Three channels. So I need three filters, right? For every channel I need a filter. So what is happening here? Create three copies of the filter, right? Because corresponding to the image, there are three channels. So create three copies of the filter, right? And perform the similar process on each. And then add the responses. So you can see what is happening. Make three copies of the filter and apply convolution operation on each channel. Similar, like I told you, right? And so what will happen? Now corresponding to a position, you will get three values. One, let us say I'm putting on the top left corner. I'm putting my filter on the top left corner of red channel, blue channel, and green channel. So every channel will give me one value. So how, so we are going to get three values, one for each channel, and then I'm supposed to add these three values to get the response of the filter, right? What is the response of the red? What is the response of the blue? What is the response of the green? Okay. So you can understand here. Now, instead of one, now I am having three channel: red channel, green channel, and blue channel. Now these are the three copies of the filter, let us say. So this filter here, this filter here, this filter here, saying that when you are placing this 3x3 filter, it is giving you response for this position, right? So whatever response you are getting here, you are going to add the response here. See, let us say it is producing response 2 for this pixel, right? Now this filter is producing response 1 again for the same pixel. This filter is producing response 0. So just add it, right? Just add it, and what will be the final response for this position in the output? That will be sum of 3. So 2 plus 1, but here it is 3. Why it is 3? Because bias is also. Yesterday we talked about bias. So you can understand it. This is nothing but what? Wx plus b. What is W? From where W is coming? W is your filter coefficient. What is X? X is your pixel value, and the bias is the same thing. Okay. So here you can see this is how the response will be generated for color images. So you can say, okay, what is my the same WTX, how you are writing for red, blue and green and plus bias. Okay. Now see, just I will take many examples so that the things may be very much clear to all of you. So here you can see that this is my 32 cross 32 picture. So now my input is what? 32 cross 32 into 3. Because 3 channels are there. So this is my input. Now my filter is 5 cross 3. So I will take 3 copies of the filter. So 5 cross 5 cross 3. This is there, right? Filter. Now remember this filter, what will happen? Again, this filter is going to be extend the full depth of the input volume. Right? Every pixel, we need to process it with the filter, except the boundary pixels, right? Because when you are going to place this filter on the boundary, then the filter will go out of the image, right? So what is happening when you are going to place this filter here? This filter is going to produce a response, right? Now, what response? This filter is going to give you just one number. What is this number? This is number is the dot product between the filter and this small chunk, this 5 cross, right? So how many multiplications are required? See, when you are having one channel, so how many multiplication if this filter is 5 cross 5, 25? When you, I just gave an example when there was an image, just one channel, you are placing your 5 cross 5 filter over this picture. How many multiplication? 25 multiplication. Now your picture is having 3 channels. So 25 multiplication for red channel, 25 multiplication for green channel and 25 multiplication for blue channel. So total we will say 75 dimensional dot product you are going to get. And then one bias, right? So if you are going to add this, then 75 dimensional dot product and one term will be for bias. So 76 terms, right? And this will give you one hidden neuron in the next layer. When you are going to move this, filter over the picture, you are going to generate more and more responses here, more and more hidden layer response. Now what happens when you are able to move this filter across the entire image, you will get output of one filter, right? This is output of one filter. Because when you are going to move this filter here, it is going to produce the responses. So these all are responses corresponding to one filter when you are moving this filter across the image. Now let us say you are moving 10 filters. Because I said that in the convolutional layer, there will be many filters, right? You are using ear filter, nose filter, eye filter, whatever, right? So let us say I am using 10 filters. So what will be the output of my process? What will be the depth? See here, what was the depth? See, this picture was, let us say 32 cross 32 and depth was 3. Now what will be my depth if I am using, let us say, D filters? Corresponding to every filter, I will get a response, right? So 10 filter means width will be 10. D filter means this width will be 10, right? So, so this is how you can see that we are getting this 3D output of depth D when we are using D different filters, right? And so you can see that one set of filter, one set of weights will give you one slice. Every filter will give you a slice. It will form it will again become 3D, right? See here, see again, see this is your one channel, and red, green and blue, so 3 channels are there. Now if I am using D filters, then at each position I will get one response. So corresponding to each filter, I will get one slice. So if I am using 10 filters, I will get 10 slices. So what will be the depth of output? Depth will be 10. So input depth was 3, but output depth will be 10 because I am using 10 filters. And every filter is giving me one slice. Channel, so we have added now. See, corresponding to each channel, this thing what we did. See, these are the 3 channels. So these 3 channels are giving me one response only. 3 channels, I am not using 3 responses. So when I am placing my filter here, let us say corresponding position, one response is summation of red response, green response, blue response plus bias, right? So you can see here, red response, green response, blue response and bias. So corresponding to this, I am getting just one response, right? So corresponding to each filter, when I am running it on this picture, I am getting one response. And when I'm running my filter across the entire image, I'm getting one slice, right? One slice of output. Clear? Now see, remember here, uh, this in practice, as I told you that one layer is having multiple filters. So in practice, your convolution neural networks use many filters, right from, I mean, you can imagine 64 to like any number of filters. Right now, let us see, because our focus was on this local and this weight sharing, right? So let us see what do we mean by weight sharing. Okay. Now here you can see this is my input. Let us say I'm taking 4x4 picture. So these 16 inputs are there, right? Now this is my, let us say my filter is 3x3. When my filter is 3x3, let us say I'm placing filter here. So just imagine these 9 coefficient is 9 colors, right? मैं लिख नहीं पा रही हूँ, that is what the problem. But so just consider that first, like your filter is 3x3, your filter is having 9 coefficients. So let us say first one is top left, right? This is your maroon, then second is green, third is blue, then the next row it is pink, yellow, like that. Okay, so these colors are giving you 9 coefficients of your 3x3 filter. Right now, when you are placing your filter for the first time here, which pixel are going to participate? 3, 4, 7, 9, 10, 12, 11, 14, and 15. Just see that. When you are placing your filter here, see 8 is not participating, right? Similarly, 6 and these 1, 2, 5, 9, they are not participating, right? So you are placing first coefficient of your filter with 3, second with 4, third with 7, fourth with 9, fifth with 10, like that, right? So that is with the color, right? Now when you are moving your filter, what will happen? The picture content changed, but the filter coefficients remain same, right? So when you are moving here, now see, this is the same first coefficient of your filter, follow this maroon color. So the first coefficient of your filter, which was placed over 3, now it is placed over 4. So actually when you are moving your filter, you are moving these 9 coefficients only, no matter how big your picture is. Here I have, just to give you an example, I have taken a very small image that is of 4x4. Let us say your image is 256 x 256. No matter. But how many coefficients you are using to do this multiplication and sum? That is 9, right? So here you can see that. So this is what we mean by, now when you are moving it further, let us say I'm moving it here one position down, so the maroon thing will go to 9, right? Like that. So this is called the weight sharing, right? So we can think of a convolutional layer as a hidden layer in which various inputs, they are sharing a single weight parameter. When you are moving, right, so your pixel values are changing, but filter coefficient are being shared, right, among the pixels. Like in one go, whatever filter coefficient was with 3, next go it is with 4, right? Next go it is with 9, like that, right? So filter coefficients are being shared. Now, as I told you, the convolutional layer is nothing but a 3D activation. So you can see this all together, your weights are having 4 dimensional. See here, input depth, right? This is your output depth, and this, and then there is what is your height and width of the kernel or filter, right? There we call them kernel, filter, same thing, right? So what is the height and depth of your filter, and what is the depth of your input and output? So these are the parameters. Okay. Now, if we talk about feature maps, so let us say I gave you example of one filter. Let us say I am having 2 filters. If I am having 2 filters, I will get 2 slices, right? I will get 2 channels, and these are called feature maps. So one slice I am getting corresponding to one filter. So that is my feature map. The entire matrix, that entire, all those values, they are called feature maps, right? You can see here, this is my input, right? Again, you can see red, blue, green channel. Now this is my filter number 1. Let us say eye filter. This is my filter number 2. Let us say nose filter, right? So what is happening? Because here you can see whatever is the depth, that those many copies of the filter, right? Corresponding multiplication and summation, and then you are going to get output. So remember here, somebody asked also this question, we will discuss also. Here you can see what is your input. Input height and width is what? 6 cross 6. Corresponding to the 6 cross 6 input, what is my output? 4 cross 4. Right? Why this 4 cross 4 output we are getting? Because see, the first position when my filter is fully inside picture is this. So, which is giving me response for this pixel. It means that I'm not getting response for these pixels. Right? Similarly, when I will move forward, I will move my filter here at the corner and I have to stop. I cannot generate response for this pixel. Why? Because when I will place my 3 cross 3 filter here, my filter will go out of the picture. Yes. So we'll do something, but just now it should come in your knowledge that yes, we are losing something. So basically, we are losing contribution of the corner pixels, right? We are losing contributions of the corner pixels, but this is there. So you should know the process first. Right now, I'm interested that you should know the correct process. Then we'll see what we are losing, what we are getting, right? Usually, yeah, you can keep, but we keep it typically odd sizes so that it is very clear what is the center of, what is the origin of my field. Right. So you will see the literature of image processing or vision 3 cross 3, 5 cross 5, 15 cross 15, even when you go for morphological processing. Right. We typically, although Roberts filter, we talk about edge filter, then Roberts filter is 2 cross 2 filter. But there you do not get a clear center. And another thing I feel that when you take odd size, then remember that we are looking in the local area. Right. That is, so what happens, let us say this pixel is there. Now, all pixels which are surrounding this pixel, they are its neighbor, right? So we say all those pixels which are left, right, top, bottom, they are the 4 neighbors, and all diagonal neighbors are there. So total 8 neighbors, right? So when you are taking like this, then you are considering response from all direction, right? You are considering all its neighbors. Right? That is another thing. So typically we keep it odd size, right? So now this is the response of one filter. So this is my one filter map, right? The slice which I said, that slice is called filter map, right? I'm saying that D filters you are using, so D slices you are generating. So basically those are the D filter maps, right? So this is one filter map, right? Now you are using another filter corresponding to this filter. Again, you are getting one output. This is another filter. So because you use two channels, right? Two filters, sorry. You use two filters, therefore you are getting two channels, or you can say two feature maps. Okay? 4 use karte then 4 feature maps, right? Like that. And remember here, each feature map will be using its own bias, right? So weights are its coefficient and every filter is having its own bias. Now see activation map, because remember yesterday we were talking about activation function. Until now, if you look at this convolution process, what is this convolution process? Again, sum of product. So this is a linear operation, right? So convolution is a linear operation. Linear shift invariant operator, that is what we call it. Okay, why we call it shift invariant operator? Because see, no matter whatever coefficients are there, if the same pattern is going to be repeated anywhere, convolution will give you the same response. Let us say you are placing a filter on image area. So if these 9 values, they are present anywhere in the picture, your filter will give the same response because the process is same, right? So shift invariant filters, right? So now we need to introduce activation here, non-linearity here. So we are going to have activation function introduced. So what is happening till now, whatever process you are doing the same, you generated the response. Now just apply activation function on each entry of the feature map so that you can get the activation map, right? So here you say that you got this feature map. Now on every entry, just apply sigmoid or ReLU. Whatever you are going to generate, that is your activation map. So on this sum of product, what this Wx plus B, you are passing it on to the activation function. Here also you are passing the same. So you are passing this whatever feature map, right? So whatever entries are there on the feature map, every entry will be given to activation function, right? And you will get activation map. Now you see here, if you notice here, again my picture is 32 cross 32 cross 3. My filter is 5 cross 5. And so I'm getting 3 copies of this filter. And what is output? 28 cross 28 cross 1. Right? Why it is 1? Because we are using just one filter, so one slice you are going. But just remember here what happens. See, there we are using, the picture was my 6x6 picture. I was using 3x3 filter. The output was 4x4. It means that the corner pixels, all corners, right? This left column, right column, top row and bottom row, they were not participating. Now see, I have increased the filter size. Now my filter size is 5x5. Now what will be the first position when my filter is going to be placed? Completely inside the picture. It will be at the third row and third column. Just imagine you are placing your 5x5 filter inside your picture when your filter is completely inside. It means that top 2 rows are not going to participate and left 2 columns are not going to participate. Similar thing will happen when you move to the right side. Right? Similar thing will happen when you are moving to the bottom. So you can see that on all sides, right? How much drop is there? From 32 to 28. Right? So 2 on this side and 2 on that side, 4. 2 on this side and 2 on this side, 4. Right? That is the, although there is some formula also, but I don't go on formula. I will tell you formula. You can use formula, but I used to do it on by this way only. So now you can see this. That is what the question he asked. Right? So what is happening with the odd sizes, you are getting a clear center of the filter. So when I'm placing my filter here, I know for which pixel I'm going to get the response, usually the center pixel. Although in odd size also you can, when you go filtering, you can decide any of the position as an origin. But usually we kept the center position as an origin, right? So we have even size filter, as I gave you example of the Roberts edge filter, that is a 2x2 filter. But in general, all the filter, you will find odd sizes, right? And one more thing which I say, that it is when you are placing your filter here and as a center, as a origin, you are getting a response from all sides, right? All its neighbors are participating, right? So when you are taking even size, then one side neighbors are not going to participate. But in this odd size, when you are putting center of the filter at some pixel, all its 8 neighbors are participating. Okay? So here you can see this process was for one filter. Now I am going to repeat this process for n number of filters, right? See that now I am going to get, as I am going to use more and more filter, I am going to get more and more activation maps, right? So now we are having second activation maps, right? Similarly, let us say I am using 6 filters, right? I am using 6 5x5 filters, right? So now see, remember, so 32x32 is my picture. My filter size is 5x5. Therefore, my output size will be 28x20, right? But what will be the depth? Depth will be not 5. We are using 6 filters. Every filter will give you one slice, right? So see, every filter is giving me one activation map. So corresponding to these 6 filters, I am getting 6 activation maps. Clear? Now, so when we say that activation map, so basically an activation function is applied on all entries of each feature map to get the activation map. Okay. So here you can see that, let us say these are the 2 filters, right? So I am getting 2 maps, right? 2 filter having, and on each filter map, I am applying this ReLU. So ReLU is one of the activation function. So see this, and then whatever I am getting, that is my activation map, right? So on the filter map, I am just getting by applying the convolution operation, and after convolution operation, whatever is output, I am passing it on to activation, and that is how I will get activation maps. So I'm interested in activation maps actually. Now see here, this is an example of the activation map. So here, this is your input feature map, and so this is your feature map, and this is your activation map, right? So what happens, how this activation map is being plotted, just to show you that the black color is showing the negative entries and white color is showing the positive entries, right? And when you are applying ReLU function, so what happens, all negative, they are mapped to 0. All positive, they are kept as it is, right? That is your ReLU activation function says. So when you apply on this feature map, when you apply ReLU function, this is your activation, which will give you all non-negative, right? So this is an example of the activation map. Okay. Now, so as I told you that CNN is a sequence of convolutional layers, and so you can see that here in this, this is my input. Now this is one layer, second layer, third layer, fourth layer. There will be many layers, right? Many convolution layers will be there. Okay. So what happens here? We are going to make use of the convolution layers in sequence, and there we are making use of activation function. And later on, I will tell you that apart from convolution layers, we will use other types of layers also, right? But right now, just focus on the convolution, right? So this is your convolution layer, and here ReLU activation function you are using, right? Now, how many filters? Cross 5 filter, right? And how many such filters? 6 filters. Okay. So what is my output? See, 32 cross 32, output is 28 cross 28 cross 6. Now my next convolution layer. Now tell me, if I am going to place one filter, how many copies of that filter I need to create? See here, when I put my filter, my picture was 32 cross 32 cross 3. So I made 3 copies of the filter. So that each channel I am operating, then I am adding the response at the corresponding position. Now this is my input. For the next layer, this is my input. Now my input is 28 cross 28 cross 6. How many copies of filter I am going to make? 6 copies, right? Very correct. So now you can see that in the next layer, we are using 10 filters. Now again, all these filters are of size 5 cross 5. 6. So I need to make 6 copies. Well, how this number 6 is coming? Because depth is 6 here. So whatever is the depth here input, those many copies of the filter you need to create, right? So this 6, and now you are using these. So now if you are applying on 28 cross 28, your filter is 5 cross 5. What will be the size, height and width of your output? See, 32 say what was happening? 4. So again it will be minus 4. So 24 cross 24. But what will be the depth? 10. Why 10? Because 10 filters. Because see, when you are making one copy of this 10 copies of filter, every position here 6, they will give you just one response, right? For one filter. And there are 10 filters. So 10. So depth is 10. And this will go on, right? So this is what is what happens, right? Clear to everyone till this point? Now this is your 3D cube. Let us see how your 3D cube looks like. See, this is my picture, right? And these are my filters. So 32 filters I am. So each of the 32 filter will give me one slice, right? So these are the activation maps. You can see these are the 32 activation maps, one corresponding to each filter. So corresponding to first filter, I got this first one. So just put them in the stack, right? So this is the first one. I have just put it here, right? Now the third, fourth one, I got this, right? Similarly, go on 5th, 6th, 7th. Just imagine that you are putting on some files over there, right, in the rack. That is how you are generating, right? So this is the last one that will give you the last this thing, right? So you can see that this is nothing but a 3D, right? So height and width corresponding to your picture, and what will be the depth? That will be how many filters, right? Now this is example from one of my work. So as I told you yesterday that we were talking about we are working on the ocular disease. So this is nothing but a fundus image of with cataract in the left eye, and this is how the activation maps are being generated by using one of our works, right? To show you how activation maps looks like. This is another example. So as you are moving away, you are going to identify the things over there, right? What patterns are present over there. So remember that. Now talk about these filters and redundancies. So one filter is giving you one depth slice. If you look at these, just have a pause and just look at it, and then you will observe that some filters are going to detect all same pattern, right? We are using so many filters, and some filters are giving you more or less same. It means that, and if you are using more number of filters means more computation. So you will see if the some filters are giving me same sort of response, I can reduce them, I can drop them. But remember that if we are going to keep very less number of filters, then will not be able to extract the information, because whatever information is there. So it might be, some might be redundant, but actually in reality you must use a good number of filters, right? Just using a few will not get that out, right, which you want. Now again come to the convolution layer. So remember how the number of filters in the single convolution layer, that is what? That is a parameter or hyperparameter. How many filters you are going to choose, parameter or hyperparameter? So it is parameter or hyperparameter? Hyperparameter, right? So it depends upon the application and the data input type, right? And so typically we will say that a sizable number of filters will be chosen so that you can extract maximum number of features out. So now question comes, although I have already given you answer because of your curiosity in the beginning, what are we learning here? What are we learning here? Just vision learn kar rahe ho aap. What are weights here? हमने तो weight word use ही नहीं किया. I didn't use the word weight. Pixel value. Pixel value कैसे learn करेंगे? How we are going to learn pixel values? Because those are the given, right? What are we learning? I gave this answer to you only. It is on your question. So now, basically, you are detecting features, right? But what are you learning here? You are learning filter coefficients, right? This filter coefficient, right? Someone of you gave this answer. Yeah, what are the weights here? Are we using that is filter coefficient? Filter or kernel, that is the same thing. So what are we going to learn here? That is filter coefficient. See, when we started with just 9 random numbers, let us say. I don't know this is an eye filter or ear filter or nose filter. Who knows? Nobody knows, right? So when we will do this process, right, the complete process will be clear to you. When we do this process of having multiple convolutional layers and finally we'll reach to the fully connected layer, we will do the back propagation, and ultimately what we are going to learn here, that is the filter coefficient. So at the end of the process, I know this filter is giving me some pattern, right? Whatever pattern is hidden there in that data, or you can say image, right? So now here, one more thing, I told you that we are moving filter one by one, one position at a time, right? So here you can see that, so that is called stride, right? So during convolution, your filter, or you can say weights, are sliding over the input, right? And when your weights slide over the input, it generates one output, right? So for example, you can see here, when you are going to place your filter here, it is going to give you one response here, and that is this response, right? Now you are going to move it one position, right? It is going to give you another response, that is the next one. See here, this was the first one. Now imagine this is moved, next one. Further moved, next one. Further, every time I am moving one position forward, right? So this is how, and now it is done. So I need to start from here. Okay. So remember that what happens when this was the example, your stride was 1. How many position I am moving in one moment? One movement, that is the stride. So earlier example, my stride was 1. Now let us take another example when we say that my stride is 2. 2 means that what will be the next position if I will move it here? After 2, right? So you can see here this. Now next is this. Have you noticed something? This is the response when this is your 8x8 picture. This is the response of your 3x3 filter with stride 1, right? Now this is your picture, same 8x8, but stride is 2. See the response. Because now more number of pixels are not participating, because when you are going to move it, see here how many placing is possible when you are taking stride 2. One position is this, another position is this, and another position is this. So for each here you are going to get just 3 responses. Similarly, when you will move here at the bottom, like on the you will move to the next this thing, then also you'll get 3 responses. So when you are taking stride 2, the output is 3x3. When you have taken stride 1, the output was 6x6, right? So if you can notice that with the certain strides, you will not be able to cover all the input, right? So in this case, something is like you saw, it has become just like half size, right? There we are losing 1. So 32, 32, so we are getting 28, 28, but here you can see just half size, okay? So here you can see this convolutional layer and image dimension, which you have already noticed that when we are performing convolution operation, the size of the activation map is becoming small, right? So remember that. I will come on this. So now if I just take a pause and see what we have learned till now. So operation with the filters is going to produce your output volume. Filter values are initially chosen randomly. Then gradually your filters are going to be updated. And ultimately every filter will learn a small pattern, right? So now suppose, now take this quiz on your own, right? Although I will show you the answer, because so, but still you take this quiz on your own. Let us say your picture is 256 cross 256, color image, so 3 channels. Now there are 8 filters, each of size 5 cross 5. Now what will be the output volume? Hmm? Just take one. Now 252 by 252 by 8, right? 8 filters are there. See, now when you are having a 5 cross 5 filter, so each filter, how many copies will be made? 3 copies will be made, right? So your filter volume is 5 cross 5 cross 3, right? Now when you are convolving it, then corresponding to each block, you are going to get just one output, and one convolution of, after this whole convolution process, you have correctly got what will be the size of your output, 252 cross 2. Right? So just imagine, as a rule of thumb, I do it, right? So it is a 3 cross 3. So just imagine when you are putting it center. So one row goes out, and similarly one column goes out and one row goes out. Still, if you are doing it 3 cross 3, just subtract 2, right? One from this side, one from that side. If you are doing 5 cross 5, subtract 2. 2 from this side, 2 from that side, right? And of course, top and bottom. So take that as a rule of thumb. So for 8 filters, there's the volume is this 8, right? So here now you can see this convolution layer and output dimension. You can use this formula, right? If you wish, you can use this formula, but I don't use, right? So here you can see this n cross n is your picture size, f cross f is your filter size, and then stride, right? So just to put the values over here and see whatever we did, you are getting that same answer or not. You can check, right? So now we come to know that what is happening with the dimension, right? So from 32 cross 32 to 28 cross 28 to 24 cross 20. So now we need to deal with it, because what is happening? Have you noticed one thing? From 32 to 28, okay. From 28 to 24, next time it will become 20, next time it will become 16. And because we are saying that many layers are there, right? Many filters are there. So if it is going to be small, it means that if the pixels are not going to participate, what are we going to learn? Because we are learning, the aim of this whole exercise is to learn the patterns inside the picture. So if the pixels of the picture will not participate, what we are going to learn? Nothing, right? So we need to make up for this, right? So for this, the solution is zero padding. So there are other, if you go to the image processing literature, that is what I tell to my computer vision student, but here I will not go to that details. Just consider the most common method, that is called zero padding, right? So zero padding, it is very common to zero pad the border. And what are the advantage of it? That first of all, dimension reduction is controlled. So if my image input is 30 cross 32, my output should also be 32 cross 32, right? And also the corner pixels will have better contribution. For example, 3 cross 3 filter. 3 cross 3 filter, I know that these sides are going to be chopped off. So I have provided, before applying filtering, I have zero padded my image, right? So if my image is what? 3, 6 cross 6, right? I made it 8 cross 8. Because I know that I'm using 3 cross 3 filter. So 3 cross 3 filter will chopped off from all 4 sides. So I am providing beforehand all 4 sides, right? Although I'm providing 0 only, but I'm providing. So what happens here? Earlier, which pixel was participating when you are placing your filter? This is the first pixel, right? These pixels were not participating at all. But now you are placing your filter like this, and every pixel here in the picture is going to participate, right? So I ensured that, I mean, so this is, by this process, it is ensured that every pixel is participating. Although because this is zero padding is there, so you can imagine, I mean, some bordering, black border may come, right? But here still we have controlled somehow this damage. Now let us say what happens. So your input image is of size 7 cross 7. The filter is 3 cross 3 and your stride is 1. So how many, what will be the padding size? 1 pixel, right? So 1, 0 you are going to place across all its boundaries. That is what, right? So if I'm going to use this, if I'm going to pad my picture with 1 pixel border, what will be my output? 7 cross 7. So I started with 7 cross 7 and I'm able to maintain it 7 cross 7, right? So usually when you talk about convolution layers, they mostly use stride 1 only, right? So remember, so what should be the size of the zero padding to maintain image height and width? Again, you can get this formula, but just rely on your own intuition, right? Put the formula also. So if it is 3, then what is happening? 3 minus 1 by 2. So 1, right? 1 pixel. Now again come back to this input output volume. So let us say our input volume is 64 cross 64 cross 3 and I am applying 10 filters each of size 5 cross 5, and because my filter is 5 cross 5, now how much padding we need to do? 2, right? If stride is 1, because 2 columns and 2 rows, right, on all both sides. So my padding is 2, stride is 1. Anyone who is having any doubt on this? Right? Okay. So padding is 2, stride is 1. Now give me the answers of these questions. So what will be your output volume? This time it will not be reduced, right? Earlier 256 to 252. But now it will be 64 cross 64 cross 10, right? Okay, we'll come. Now, what is the number of parameters in a layer? In one layer, how many parameters are there? 64 is picture, not parameters. Parameters are weight. Kahan hai? What are the weights here? 64 into 5 cross 5, right? Those are there, no? So when you are saying that, how many, what are you learning here? One filter, 5 cross 5. So those 25 coefficients you are learning, no? Just 25 or anything else? Not 25. See here, what, okay, chaliye, abhi pehle aap, you just think over it and I will come on that. And how many parameters to learn? And this question you can answer correctly only when you will answer this question correctly. Bias hai, but only 5 cross 5. Yes. 3 filters, right? One filter is 5 cross 5. And how many? Because your input volume depth is what? 3. So how many copies of this filter you are going to keep? 3. So 5 cross 5 cross 3. So 75 coefficients. And then somebody said about bias, right? So total, how many? 76. Now tell me how many parameters to learn? 760, right? 76 in one layer. So 760 total number of parameters, right? So now again, there is a formula you can devise, like, so I usually don't discuss it. Now, so convolution layer, right? So that is what is your convolution process. So now the comes fully connected layer, right? So in the fully connected layer, you can see that every this pixel is connected with every unit here, right? So that is your fully connected. Now, so this is your convolution layer and this is your fully connected. Now you can get the difference over. At a time, what is happening when you are moving to the next, when you remember what is happening in the convolutional layer, when you are moving from one layer to other layer, generate one value, generate one hidden neuron, you can say, in the next layer. How many pixels are participating here? Let us say your filter size is 3 cross 3, 9 pixels. But if it would have been fully connected layer, and you are generating one hidden like one node in the next layer, how many are participating? All are participating. Now you got the difference over there, right? So here you can see, in the beginning I said that in the convolution neural network, we are in the small neighborhood, right? So if I want to generate one response over there in the next layer, I don't need all pixels to participate. Just if it is a 3 cross 3 neighborhood, 3 cross 3 filter, just 9 pixels are participating, right? And I'm getting the response. But in case of fully connected layer, everyone is going to participate to give me one response. So each neuron looks at the full input volume, which is not there in convolution layer, right? So that is how the things are being saved. So if I come to the fully connected layer, now because you know everything about convolution layer, you can tell me, so okay, so your input size, just go through it. How are we going to perform this? So your input size is this, like you are going to flatten it first, right? Then, so what will be the dimension of your input vector when you are going to flatten it? 1D vector 3072 into 1. Now there are, let us say there are 10 neurons, 10 units, right, in the first hidden layer. If we are having this fully connected network and there are 10 hidden units, right, in the first hidden layer, and each unit is looking at the full input vector. Can you tell me how many parameters? 3070. Think again. You are on the right path, but maybe stuck up in the local minima. Reach to the global. What you forget? You gave the answer earlier. 20 नहीं है, क्या है? 30. So you forget to add bias, right? So this is of course 10 units are there. So every input, right, will go to each of the 10 units, right? So of course there will be 30720. But there are 10 units over there, so you can say 10 bias are also there. So this plus 10, that is. Now tell me if I'm having this I have already opened up the suspense, sorry. So if we are having same, let us say 3 cross 3 filter and 10 such filters, then what will be the size of my convolutional layer? How many parameters? Right? So you can see how much difference is there in convolutional layer and fully connected, right? Now again come to this picture 6 cross 6 and filter. So let us see what is happening, right? What is the beauty of this basically. Now you can see this is your filter. Again follow all these colors and also, okay, so your filter is going to put over here. Now what is happening? So the first response is so here you know that now it is a 6 cross 6, filter is 3 cross 3, the response will be 4 cross 4, right? So this is your response. Now how this first response is generated? When your filter is being put here, see this red boundary, so this response is generated, right? So it means that you have given this pixel weight 1, you have given this pixel weight -1, like that. Now suppose you are going to move. So okay, so let us plot it like this, as I showed you earlier, in the form of a 1D vector, because you need to do the dot product. Okay, so what is happening? How this 3 is coming? So again, just see those circles colors and just see these colors, right? So if it is yellow, it means that 0 is given weight -1, right? If this is green, then imagine this concept, this green, right? -1, right? Like that. Okay. Now what will happen? I will move the filter. So just to move the, oh, okay. So here, first of all, appreciate what is going on, then we will move forward. So here you can see that only 9, if I'm, this is what? This 3 is the first response in the next layer, first hidden neuron in the next layer. And to generate one response, how many inputs are participating? Only 9, right? Although there are 64, 36. 6 cross 6 picture is there, so 36 inputs are there. But to generate one response, only 9 are participating. If it would have been fully connected layer, all 36 would have participated, right? Now, if I am moving, so it means that because my input is, we are connecting to 9 inputs only and not fully connected. So it means that we are having fewer parameter as compared to fully connected, right? Now see further, you moved it. Now what happens when you moved it? You are generating next response. Now, how this next response is generated? This next response is -1. How this is generated? So what does it mean? It means that for this -1, this yellow one is was earlier with 0. Now this is with this 0. So you can see that, understand, earlier my filter was here. So this weight was given to this. Now I have moved filter. So the same weight is given to this. Understand? Right? When I will, so what is happening? Earlier, just match it with the color, right? Earlier the same weight. Earlier the same weight, red color was given to number 2 and now it is given to number 3. Same weight. So when you are moving the same weights, right? What does it mean? This is called weight sharing, right? So see, not all inputs are participating to generate one response, and when they are participating, 9, but they are also participating with shared weights, right? So you can see that because of weight sharing, you are having even fewer parameters, and that is why in place of thousands, you are getting just 280 in place of more than 30,000. So that is the beauty of this operation. Clear to everyone? Now let us come to see this whole CNN architecture, and this one is your, okay. So here you can see that this is your picture. Now the convolution layer, there will be many such convolution layer, right? And finally there will be fully connected feed forward network, which you all know about it, right? Now here you can see that apart from convolution layers, there are pooling layers also. Now, what do we mean by pooling? So let us see. And this, as I told you, there will be many layers, and in every layer there will be many filters, right? You can see. So now what is pooling layer? So when your image is large, then what happens? You need to compress the data so that you can manage the input output volume, right? So data has to be compressed. We can't play with the entire data over there. So pooling layers are going to make our small, and they make our output volumes more manageable. So what is going to be here? Here again, it is going to operate these pooling layers, pooling operation, or you can say pooling layers, they are going to operate on activation maps. Remember in the picture what was there? See here, after convolution, it is a pooling. So what is the output of the convolution layer? Those activation maps, right? Output of the convolution layer is the activation maps, one after the other, depending upon how many filters you have used in that convolution layer, and you are going to apply pooling on the output, right? So you are going to apply pooling on the activation maps, right? So this is one example. Here you can see that what is so if, because see, I told you that we are going to deal with multiple filters, 1, 0, 2, 4 filters. You can see every layer, if you are going to use these many filters, how the price is growing, right? So we need to keep control on that also. So you can see that here, when I am going to do this pooling, what does it mean? That we are going to do the downsampling. So downsampling, you all must be familiar with this. That so okay, my one slice is of size 224 cross 224, and 64 such slices are there. So by downsampling, what we are doing? We are reducing the height and width from 224 cross 224 to 112 cross 112, and see, depth I have kept 6. Right? So size is being reduced. Now, when we go for pooling, there are 3 approaches: max pooling, min pooling, and average pooling. Right? Now, what do you mean by max pooling? Now, here typically, as I told you that when we do the convolution process, typically stride is kept as 1. Right? But when we do this max pooling, typical stride is 2. Right? Now, what does it mean? We are having 2 cross 2 filter. Just don't, just to save time, I removed animation here. Just imagine these 16 values. Just ignore these inner boxes. Just imagine these 16 values are there. Now my filter is 2 cross 2. So the first position of my filter will be this. Now my stride is 2. So next position will be this. So that is what is these small boxes are denoted. It means if I need to do max pooling with 2 cross 2 filters with stride 2, what will happen? First, I will place it like this, then this. So 4 positions are there when I am going to place it. And so corresponding to this, 4 responses are going to be reduced. Remember earlier what I showed you? 224 to 112. Now here what is going to happen? 4 cross 4 to 2 cross 2, right? So see here, when it is a max pooling, what will happen? Now in this neighborhood, we are not going to apply convolution operation. We are going to apply max pooling, the maximum one out of the 4. Right? Now next, what is the maximum one? 2. Next is 1. Next is 4. So what is my output? My output is 3214. Now just imagine this is your input. So your input is of size 6 cross 6. Again you are taking, see, focus on these small boxes. Again you are taking 2 cross 2, stride is 2. So this is 2 cross 2, 2 cross 2, 2 cross 2. Then when you will move downwards, then also because your stride is 2, so you move 2 position downwards, 2 cross 2, 2 cross 2, 2 cross 2, like that. So corresponding to each 4 pixels, you are going to produce one response. So here you can see max 9, then 5, then 8, like that. So your input was 6 cross 6 and your output is 3 cross 3, right? So max pooling. Okay. Similarly, you are having this average pooling. Now in the average, same 2 cross 2 filtering, stride is 2, but this time my pooling layer is average pooling. So now what we are going to do, I hope you got it. Average, right? Take the average of the 4, okay? This is average pooling, right? Now similarly, min pooling, same minimum, right? Minus 4, minus 1, then minus 2, minus 2, right? Like that. This is right. So what is the advantage of the pooling? Advantage of the pooling is basically, pooling is what? Pooling is some kind of subsampling, right? And you can see that this subsampling, so basically when we are doing subsampling, then we are not losing the image information, right? But we are managing the processing headache, right? So here you can see that a picture, a scaled picture is being shown, and you can see the a ball of food on a plate. So it is giving you the response there. Now, so with the help of pooling, what happens that we are restricting the parameters. Otherwise, my parameters are growing like that, right? Because you are using more and more this thing. So what is happening? Fewer parameters are needed to extract features for to find the patterns here, right? And another thing is that with the pooling, see, you will say that which pooling, min, max, average. So most, the choice is usually between average and max, but max pooling is being used because average pooling just does the this size reduction as a noise reduction, but max pooling, it also reduces noise in the, it is also, you can say, noise suppression, right? Along with the dimension reduction, some additional benefit it is giving, that is the noise suppression. So max अभी उस पे अब आजकल वो लेयर बंद हो गई है okay, so now with this come to a generic CNN architecture. Just have a look and we will continue. So now what happens here, you can see, now you know about what? Convolution is clear to you, convolution layer, max pooling, right? So pooling layer is now your max pooling layer. So at every step, what is happening? You are generating a new representation of that image, right? Right. And finally, you will reach to this flattening your data, right? And then you are going to pass it to fully connected feed forward network. Now you understand. See what happens when you are going this process. Ultimately, you are reaching here, and now you are ready to pass it on to the network which you are familiar with. So you can see that up to this point, what you have obtained. Let us say you are here, and what have you obtained? Your filter has did what? By using filters, what are you doing? You are extracting features. Feature map is, I mean, when you are applying this filter, what is the, you are getting, that is feature map, right? And when you apply activation on that, that is activation map, right? So you got some, because see, the hierarchy is there. I said that as you are moving up in the layer, you are learning higher level features, right? From pixel to edges and objects like that, okay, faces like that. So what is happening here, by this time you have learned some high level features, and you want to bring in some non-linearity in your high level features also, because how those high level features are connected with each other, you understand? See, when you are reaching here, first layer, second layer, third layer, So every layer, when you are moving forward, let us say in the first layer, you identified those edges. In the second layer, you are started identify body parts. In the third layer, you are identifying the entire body. So every layer you are moving up, right? You are getting more higher level representation. You are learning. So you are reaching at a point where you have higher level features, and now you want to bring some non-linearity among them. You want to see that how these are interacting with each other, because that is what those patterns we need to identify, how they are interacting with each other. So that is how, and when at this point you have brought everything which you can pass it on to your fully connected feed-forward network. So you flatten your data, right? And then you pass it there. And finally, here there will be a classifier, right? There will be a layer, say softmax layer. So if there is a, let us say, binary classification sigmoid, or let us say multi-class classification softmax layer, and what that layer is going to do, that is how, with the help of that, you are going to identify which class of this picture is there. Okay, I will tell you it more. So now you can see here, now after max pooling, right, you got things like this. Let us say earlier you are having two feature maps. These were the two feature maps. You have applied 4x4, two feature maps were there, and on each feature map you applied this max pooling, so you got this response. Feature map or activation map, this response, right? Now what you are going to do? Flatten it. Flatten it and then pass it to fully connected feed forward. Okay. And then what will happen that when you are going to pass it on, then here, then this back propagation and all, as you learned yesterday, the same thing will happen, right? So you are giving it at the end, again calculate the loss, right? At the final layer, calculate the loss and again do the back propagation, and finally this is how your network is going to learn. Filters are going to be learned. So now this is your generic CNN architecture. And if you put everything together, then how would you say that? You are going to train this network using your back propagation. And there you can see that what is the job of the convolution layer and pooling layers? They are actually acting as your feature extractor, right? And fully connected layer there is acting as a classifier. Right. So what is the job of the convolution layer and pooling layer? To extract the features, extract the patterns, and finally that connected feed forward जो आपका है finally going to act as a class. Okay. So this is, and then this back propagation and all, like it happens in the neural network, the same thing. Now see, this is an example. So this is a picture, right? This is a picture, and from this data, actually there are these classes present, right? Car, airplane, ship, horse. What happens here? You can see this is what is your network, right? Convolutional network. Here you can see that how many convolutional layers are there? Just tell me from there. How many filters are there? Okay. Then you can see here, okay, so the same, right? Usually what happens, the convolution layer and the pooling layer, that forms one, you can say, ith layer to move forward to I plus 1th layer, right? That is there. Okay, so let us say here, for max pooling, 2x2 pool filters are being used, and then convolutional filters. So you can see that this is your feature map, right? This is your feature map, and when you applied ReLU on this, this is your activation map, right? Now again you are using different filters, and that is how you are doing it. And finally here you can see you are using pooling layer, and this process goes on. So you can see that is convolution layer and pooling layer, they are interspersed over there, right? And finally there is one fully connected layer here, and this fully connected layer is telling you, so here this is what, so so basically what happens that at the softmax layer at the end, that computes the probability. So whatever class is having highest probability, the image, the classifier classifies image as of that class, right? Like that. So here you can see this picture will be classified as truck, right? So this was another example. And okay, so what is the advantage of CNN in dealing with high dimensional data? Remember, number of connections, these are the important points. So number of connections are reduced. See, I already gave you example. fewer and fewer, right? So number of connections are reduced. So you say that there is a sparse interactions, right? Then second thing was parameter sharing, same weights are being shared. Third is that equivariant representations. Remember what happens, let us say some pattern. If some pattern is moves, right? If some pattern was here and then this pattern was here, so the response should also be moved, right? And the same pattern should produce same response, no matter where that pattern is present, right? So that is how your convolution layers, they are shift invariant, right? So if your pattern is present anywhere, right, that convolution operation is like that. That is its property, right? So because what is happening? What convolution gives me? Those multiplication and addition. Now remember that if the same 9 pixels are present here or there, if your filter, you are using the same filter, the response will be same, right? See, in the picture there are 256 cross 256 pixels. Just take example of 9 pixel. Suppose my 9 pixels are all 1. It will be easy to understand, right? Let us say I have a pattern in my picture where all 9 pixels are 1. So no matter these 9 pixels are present where anywhere in my picture, my filter is going to give the same response, right? That is what. So that is, but this thing is not true for the scaling and rotation. Remember that when we go for this features extractor in typical, you can say, feature extraction literature, we say that the feature should be invariant of geometric transformation as well as this intensity transformation. Because in the presence of geometric transformation, translation, rotation, scaling, shear, and all those, then intensity transformation, you just switch off the light. What happens? We are going to telecast it, right? So the content becomes different, right? So that is. So then pooling layers further compress the output volume and have ability to work with inputs of variable size. See, first input depth was 3. Next input, I have used 10 filters, depth becomes 10, right? So you can actually work with inputs of variable size. And because of all these things, right, the number of parameters here, you want to learn feed forward neural network, right? So the parameters actually depends upon how many filters you are choosing, right? Definitely if you are going to 64 filter and 128 filters, the amount will be different, right? So it depends mainly upon how many filters you are choosing, that your training parameters are. Now, so if you talk about this training of CNN, so how do you actually train these things? So if we say, roughly speaking, you are gathering label data, you are curating that data, making it fit for, then you need to find out the architecture, your convolutional neural network, right? See, different, I mean, architecture you can form with this concept. So that is what is there present also there, Google Net and so many, right? So many CNN based architectures are there. So choose your architecture, or you form your own architecture, and then you need to minimize the loss. And for this, and then you need to do the play with the knobs. What are those knobs? Can you tell me? All hyperparameters, right? So see, layers, don't say layers to decide, okay, na? Right? Once you have fixed up your architecture, then what else? Now you have, see, no, this is very correct that number of layers, that is one of the hyperparameter, right? But I'm saying that now you have freezed your architecture. So up layers to freeze, okay, na, right? All those layers are freezed. Then what are you going to, what fiddling with what? What are your knobs? No, stride is fixed. Once your architecture is fixed, the stride is fixed. Hmm? What assume value? Till, what do you mean by learning rate here? Input to fix ho gaya na, input is fixed. All those things, there are so many things, right? How many epochs are there, right? How many, this regularization is there? How you are going to do the optimization over there? There are so many other things, right? So those knobs you are going to play with. Okay. Now see this example, and I would like you to focus so that after this example, I think everything will be crystal clear, right? Now say this is your network, right? This is your network, and here you can see that layer, ReLU, then ReLU activation function you are using, then pooling layers are there. So you can see that as you are using pooling layer, the size is reduced. Then again, solution, you have applied convolution layer, again pooling, and so on and so forth, right? And finally, you are having here these two fully connected layer, and here you are having your classifier, right? Now you are going to put your first image over there, right? Now let us say your set is having images of 4 classes, right? Your data set is having images of boats, cat, dog, and bird, right? So 4 classes images are there. And so once you are going to produce this boat image, for this boat image, what should be the output? What should be the output generated for boat image here? The probability of dog should be 0, right? Cat and bird should be 0, and this should be 1, right? So what should be the output over there? It will not be 0. Basically, we'll say the probability is high, so that is how. So you can see here, ideally what happens that this should be 1 and these should be 0. So output C 4, because why 4 output is there here? Because 4 classes you are using, right? So 4 outputs. So 1 corresponding to each class, right? So these are the scores, you can say. And then what is happening here? See, in the forward pass, you will start, right, giving your picture, and at the end, you are going to generate something corresponding to this bird. So these are your actual labels. If this image is a boat image, this is the actual label, means the cat is 0, dog is 0, bird is 0, boat is 1. So this is your actual label, right? Now, when you will perform this forward pass, what will happen? Say you are generating the values out prediction. Now output prediction is not up to your wish. Why? Because your network is not yet trained. You have just given one picture, right? So network is not trained. So this untrained network, it is producing this out. So this is your predicted output. This is your actual output, right? Now what are you going to do? Just take the error, right? Take the error between the actual and the predicted one, right? So this is nothing but the squared error. So if you are going to do this, then you are finding out some error. Now when you are getting error, then you will take the gradient of the loss or error, you can say, and you are going to perform the back propagation, right? Now you will do it for multiple epochs, right? So now let us say, okay, first time, now let us say next time. Next time again you are giving the same image. Now this time when you are giving same image, already something has happened, forward pass, backward pass, right? So when you are giving some boat image, so the next time what is being generated, the next time this is your output. Now you can see that which output is better, this or this? Second one, because see here, the ultimately what we want that for boat it should be 1. This is your ideal thing, right? True, this is your actual this output. So now you can see that we can say that we are moving in the right direction, because you can see that earlier my network was not at all trained, right? It was just producing something. Now with the backward forward pass, it is going to be trained, and now it is giving me somewhat. Now I will do it further, and with this hope that ultimately I am going to get out. Right? So there, what is happening? This process is going to be repeated. Now this process is repeated, and we do not wait for this to be 1 and others to be 0. Basically, this loss is having within some, or error is certain within certain value, we stop. We don't go for we have to make it 0. Right? Just very small, we can tolerate it. Okay, just so this is the whole work. Right? This is how this is going to be repeated. Right? This is how your CNN is going to be trained. So when we talk about CNN architecture, so many architectures are there. So LeNet, which was given by LeCun, which I told you, right? I showed you in the beginning of my talk, right? And then AlexNet, which was given by Krzyzewski, Alex Krzyzewski, and Hinton with the group in 2012 we talked about, which was, see, just 8 layers, right? The 14, the competition that I mentioned on ImageNet, that competition in 2014, that was won by VGG. Then this was, of course, from Google. This was some lab from UK, if I am not making mistake. This was given by some lab in UK, this VGG. And then this is all. And actually this has showed this model when we got earlier, the lot much hesitation was there, but when this came ResNet, right, this has actually changed the entire thinking, right? So with more than 150 layers, people understand that yes, we can do it. And when I do it, I will tell you a very interesting story, because at that time in 2010-11, I was also working on content-based image retrieval. So one student was with me. Now she is a faculty. So we have published some of the papers and we were working on machine learning models. And one fine day she came to me because her paper got a review. And in the review, she told me, ma'am, the reviewer is saying to compare your performance with the performance of this work. So I said, what is that work? Because at that time, so actually that was this AlexNet. So she brought to me, and this was there. She told me, ma'am, how to do? Because at that time we were really having we do not have that much computational resources, and we know how we were dealing with that ImageNet data. So I said, you just write on this on this reply answer. We just wrote that we can't implement it because that is not possible, these computational resources. And but I still wish that at that time I start, but I started working after a couple of years. So at that time I didn't paid much attention over there. So that is what, if you are doing research over, like you want to do, please be careful, right? What changes are going on, be for that. So these are all your CNN architectures. Now, as I told you that you can use CNN, although they are mostly in the beginning they use for the images, but you can use CNN for speech recognition also. So this is nothing but a spectrogram, right? So you can see that on the x-axis time is there, on the y-axis frequency is there, right? And what these colors are denoting? These colors are denoting what? Strength, amplitude, right? So see, what is the strength of this frequency? So on the y-axis frequency is there, but how much of this frequency is present, right? So here you can see that you can just imagine this as an image and just apply your CNN here, right? So filters here, the filters are going to move in the frequency direction, and so that you can understand how the frequency changes are there. What is the pattern of frequency changes over there, right? Because what is happening? Different speeches, the change is there in the right frequency, and there what is the tone there, right? Amplitude over there, right? So that is what you can get with CNN. Similarly, CNN is used, can be used in text classification also. So each you can have vectors, right? So corresponding to your text, right? Every word, like you can have, you can create vectors. Like in the image, what was there? Ultimately, you are using those intensity values as a vector only. Now these vector values may be belonging to any other domain also, right? The image intensity value, in place of that, you are having these vectors, right? So this is how you do in text classification. And of course, like as I told you that this has changed the entire, CNN is widely used, and now many more, like every other day, if you are looking at in the field, every other day, the new models, they are coming. And so because the industry has deployed, so obviously the acceptance is there. So I think this is all from my side today. And if you want, then I have something. If you wish, I can tell you one more thing. Although I put it at the end after thank you. So because we have time, so I think we can do it, right? Now, convolutional autoencoder. So autoencoder, anyone knows about it? Hmm? Yes. No, just what is autoencoder? I'm not going into what type of autoencoder. Hmm. What it is doing in coding decoding, it is actually learning the representation, and it is reducing size, reduced representation. So he is very correct. Encoder is there, decoder is there in the autoencoder. So your encoder learns it, and that smaller pattern out of that picture, and that is called the latent space. And from that latent space, which is a compressed version of your picture, you can generate whenever you want from this latent space. You can again generate your picture, right? So you can say that it is not exact same, like there it is a lossy, you can say, reconstruction of your picture, right? Some loss will be there. So here you can see that this is a convolutional autoencoder, and this is your encoder part. That is your decoder part. So you can see that here these are your convolution layers, right? And max pooling convolution. And then here, this is your hidden code, right? And from this hidden code, whenever you want, by following decoder, you can generate your output. Now see what is happening here. So have you noticed one thing? Here we are performing convolution, right? Now here it is written decon. What is decon? See here, when we are applying, we are reducing. Now you have reduced and you need to expand. So convolution corresponding to convolution, it is deconvolution, right? So what happens that along with this, there is another sort of depth-wise separable convolution, which I believe Dr. Beck will take when he will tell you about other CNN models. But here, let me tell you. So this is the performance. You can see the when you use that model which I showed you for 50 epoch, this is how you can see the reconstruction. So are you happy with it? With the compressed representation, you are getting this output, right? So just with the original one. Now, so what is D? Because when we are using, encoder uses convolutional layers and decoder uses deconvolution, right? Now, what is deconvolution, right? So if you just consider it as a meaning, it should be inverse of convolution, opposite of convolution, that is your deconvolution. So we say that if convolution on X produces Z, then deconvolution on Z should produce X, right? That is clear. So, but what happens in the deep learning, deconvolution is not so popular. In place of deconvolution, what we use transposed convolution, right? Transposed convolution, or so why I am telling you this, because in convolution also there are several sort of, right, varieties there. So that was the basic which I told you. So transposed convolution, they are used, and how, just see how that is being used now. See, this is your picture and this is your filter. Now, when you are applying convolution operation here, what happens? You are going to get this output. I hope it is clear to everyone. Just how this is a 4 cross 4. So you are going to put it there. One value you will get for this, one value you will get for this, one value for this, and one value for this. Because if you place your center anywhere, I mean anywhere except these 4 pixels, your filter will go out. So your filter will give you 2 cross 2, those 4 values, right? Now, when you are, it means that when you are going to write it in a 1D, then what will happen? This is a 16 features, 16 features, and what is your output? 4 features. So from 16 features, when you applied this convolution here, you got 4 features. This is at the encoder end. Decoder end, what you want to do? You are having 4 features. From these 4 features, you want to go to 16 features, right? So here you can see that. So now the question comes that, how do we get a vector of dimension 16 from the vector of dimension 4? And that is what we get using transposed convolution. Just see what is transposed convolution. Now, when you are doing convolution, then what happens? You are placing your filter like this. It means that these 9 pixels are participating, but these pixels, these 7 pixels, these 7 pixels are not participating, who are being shown in gray color, right? Now, so it means that contribution of other pixel is 0. These pixels are not participating. What does it mean? It means that their contribution is 0, right? Now, when their contribution is 0, so just imagine my filter is not of size 3 cross 3. My filter is of size 4 cross 4. My filter is of size 4 cross 4. And when I am using this filter over here, then these 9 pixels are contributing. These are not contributing. So when I am going to increase here, I'm going to set those values as 0. So when you are going to place your 4 cross 4 filter, just overlap here, right? It is that filter is having non-zero values here in 3 cross 3 position, and on this position, my filter is having 0 values. So if my filter is having 0 values and I'm placing it here, obviously they will not participate. And the same was happening here. Any doubt? I suppose no doubt, right? So now, so just think of your filter size to be same as that of input image. And so we can say that it is having non-zero values only at 9 position, and at other position it is having value 0, right? So just arrange it in a column, column vector. So now you can see that these are your pixels, right? This is your picture. Now this is your filter. You can see here, you are going to add 0 here, 0, 0, 0, and then 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay? So how, when you are going to expand it as a 1D vector, what will happen? 1, 0, minus 1, 0. See, yeah, just match it here. 1, 0, minus 1, 0. Next will be 2, 0, minus 2, 0, 2, 0, minus 2, 0. Next is 1, 0, minus 1, 0, 1, 0, minus 1, 0. And last, all zeros are there. Last all zeros here. And when you are just going to do the dot product, you are getting what? Minus. Okay? Right. Now, see, so this is your first column of the transpose matrix, right? Similarly, what we happen, we need to construct the second column, third column, and fourth column. Okay, let us imagine. Come here only. Now suppose you are moving your filter. When you are moving your filter here, now these pixels are not participating. It means how I need to form it, my filter? 0, 0, 1, 0, minus 1, 0, 2, 0, minus 2, 0, 1, 0, minus 1, and all zeros. So it means that I need to generate a matrix, right? And so column wise, here you can see that. So this was your first column of that matrix, right? Which I showed you. Now the second column, what will happen? This is your second column. Remember, you have moved it one place, right? So the first pixel is not participating. So you can see this has become 0. The next 3 are participating, same as your filter. Ye to hai 0, minus 1, this 1, 0, minus 1, 1, 0, minus 1. Now the next one, in the next scan line, the first one is not participating, so 0. Right? That is why I told you by taking that example. So this is the second column, right? So you can see this is the second column. Similarly, you are going to construct the third column. Now, when you are going to construct the third column, what will happen? First row will all be 0. Because now your filter has moved one place downwards. So first row is all 0. So you can see first row is all 0. Now next. Right. So this is how you got these 4 filter. So this is called transconvolution matrix. Right. So transconvolution matrix is created. Now you multiply it with the output of the convolution. What was your output of the convolution? 2 cross 2. See, this was minus 4, 4, minus 8, minus 4. So this will give you a vector of size 4 cross 1. Right. See. Expand it. Okay. Right. Earlier this was this. Sorry. It is there. Now expand it as 1D. Now just do the dot product. So first, now how many rows are there? How many rows are there here? 16. How many value? What will be your output? See, every entry will give you one value, right? So this was my from 16 to 4 and from 4 to 16, right? So you can see here when you are going to do this, so your output will be a 16D vector, right? And you can arrange it again in a 4 cross 4. Because your picture was 4 cross 4, you got a 1D vector, 16 entries are there, just arrange it as 4 cross 4, right? And that is what is the output of your this thing, right? Is it clear? Now let me come back to my thank you slide. So I hope, yeah, I know I have texted you a lot. So these are references and slide credits. Then, okay, finally, my thanks, my sincere thanks to you for participating with me. Any question we can even take up on the tea also. All these technologies are being used. As I already told you in the beginning, how this whole thing started when 2012 it was possible that this is LXNet gave those results, and that after that, no, things